The sun had set, and the winding road was cloaked in darkness. Sarah, a 28-year-old graphic designer, was driving home from her job in the city, mindlessly following her GPS directions. She had recently moved to the countryside seeking peace after a tough breakup, but tonight tranquility seemed distant. Everything was quiet until she spotted a figure standing on the side of the road, barely visible under the dim glow of her headlights. It was a tall man, dressed in dark clothing, his face obscured by shadows. Sarah's heart raced as she slowed down, wondering if she should stop. The man raised his hand, signaling that he needed a ride. Sarah hesitated, thinking of the stories her mother used to tell her about the dangers of picking up strangers, but then decided to help, thinking it could be someone genuinely in need. She unlocked the car doors with a soft click. "Thank you for stopping," the man said, his voice raspy and low. Sarah nodded, trying to suppress a growing unease. She noticed his hands were trembling, and his clothes looked old and worn out, almost as if they belonged to a different era. She tried to start some small talk to break the silence. "So, where are you headed?" "Just up the road," he replied, his eyes not meeting hers. The darkness around him seemed to swallow his words. Sarah's unease grew. She tried to keep her focus on the road, but curiosity gnawed at her. As she drove deeper into the dark, winding road, she noticed that the man was no longer sitting in the back seat. Panic surged through her veins. She glanced quickly at the rearview mirror and saw him sitting in the front seat beside her, his face inches from hers, a twisted smile stretching across his lips. Sarah screamed and slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to an abrupt stop. She turned to confront him, but he was gone. In fact, the car was now completely empty. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she felt a chill run down her spine. She started the engine again, speeding down the road, her mind racing with questions. When she finally reached her house, she pulled into the driveway and ran inside, locking the door behind her. That night, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, following her. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the man's raspy voice whispering in her ear, "I'm always with you." Days passed, and Sarah thought she had put the incident behind her. She threw herself into her work, trying to distract herself from the haunting memories. But one night, as she drove down the same road, she saw the same man standing on the side again. This time, his appearance was even more disturbing. His clothes were now tattered, and his face was pale and gaunt, like someone who hadn't seen the light in years. She tried to ignore him, but he ran after her car, his face twisted into a sinister grin. She could hear his maniacal laughter as she sped away, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. From that day on, Sarah never drove down that road again. She changed her route and even considered moving back to the city, but occasionally she hears whispers in the darkness, and she knows it's the man from the road, still coming to haunt her. Every now and then, she would find small, inexplicable signs that he was near. A faint echo of his laughter in the wind, a cold draft that seemed to follow her in the house, or the feeling of eyes watching her from the shadows. Sarah realized that some encounters leave scars that never truly heal. It was a dark, stormy night in the middle of nowhere. The rain was pouring down relentlessly, making it almost impossible to see anything beyond a few feet ahead. Rain had been driving for hours with her boyfriend Alex, and they both desperately needed a break. Just as they were about to give up hope of finding a place to stop, they spotted a small sign on the side of the road that read, "Restroom next exit." Without hesitation, Rain took the exit. The building looked like it hadn't been used in years, with broken windows, peeling paint, and a large, closed sign hanging on the door. The wind howled through the cracks in the walls, adding to the eerie atmosphere. But desperate for relief, they decided to check it out. As they pushed open the heavy door, a damp, musty smell hit their noses. It was clear no one had been there in a long time. The flickering fluorescent light cast unsettling shadows, and the walls were covered in mold. The floors were sticky with a substance that made Rain shudder to think about. Ignoring the filth, Rain quickly went into one of the stalls, grateful for the relative safety and privacy from the storm outside. But as she settled, she heard a faint rustling from the stall next to hers. At first, Rain tried to dismiss it as the wind or her imagination, but the sounds grew louder and more insistent, a shuffling and muttering that sent chills down her spine. She realized that someone, or something, was in the stall next to hers. Suddenly, the door to the stall next to her creaked open, and Rain froze. Through the gap, she saw a figure step out of the shadows. A woman with long, tangled hair and tattered clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. Her eyes were red and bloodshot, her skin pale and clammy, almost translucent under the flickering light. Before Rain could react, the woman lunged towards her, her arms outstretched and her mouth open in a twisted, almost unnatural grin. Rain scrambled to her feet as fast as she could, nearly slipping on the sticky floor, and bolted out of the restroom. She found Alex waiting for her outside, his face pale and eyes wide with fear. "We need to go now," Rain shouted, her voice trembling. Together they ran back to the car as fast as they could, the woman's eerie laughter echoing in Rain's ears as they fled. As they drove away from the abandoned gas station, the rain pounded on the car roof, but inside, it was eerily silent. Rain's heart pounded as she looked at Alex, both of them silently acknowledging that they had narrowly escaped something far more sinister than they could have imagined. Just as they thought they were safe, Rain glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a shadowy figure standing in the middle of the road behind them. The woman's twisted grin was the last thing she saw before the rain swallowed her figure, leaving Rain with a sense of dread that she couldn't shake off. In the heart of a sleepy town deep within the woods, folks lived in peace and quiet. But there was one place they feared above all else, the abandoned mansion on the edge of town. It stood like a relic of forgotten times, with its boarded-up windows and a gate covered in rust. Whispers had circled for ages about its grim history. Some claimed it was built atop a cursed burial ground, while others swore it was once owned by a notorious black magician who dabbled in blood sacrifices and dark rituals. Despite the warnings, a brave few dared to step foot inside the mansion, driven by tales of the Black Book, a legendary tome rumored to grant eternal life. One fateful day, a group of teenagers, Emma, Jake, Mia, and Noah, decided to throw caution to the wind and explore the eerie mansion. They'd heard murmurs about the Black Book and were dead set on claiming it for themselves. As they cautiously crept through each room, they stumbled upon eerie symbols etched into the walls, ominous warnings of the perils that lay ahead. The deeper they ventured into the mansion, the more twisted and distorted the architecture seemed to become. Emma, the group's leader, found herself drawn to a concealed chamber. Inside, there it lay, the Black Book. Bound in weathered black leather, its pages adorned with cryptic symbols that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Without a moment's hesitation, they snatched the book and bolted. Yet, as they raced out of the mansion, a bone-chilling wind swept through, carrying faint whispers that seemed to echo in their minds. They tried to shake it off, but the whispers only grew louder, more urgent. Returning to the village, they found themselves in a grim reality. Decay gripped everything around them, and the once vibrant villagers now shuffled about like hollow shells, their eyes vacant and souls seemingly drained. It dawned on them that the Black Book bore a curse, one that threatened to bring about the end of all life unless they returned it to its rightful place. But as they made their way back to the mansion, grotesque creatures began emerging from the shadows, twisted, demonic beings that slithered and crawled with malevolent intent. Emma, Jake, Mia, and Noah faced a harrowing battle to undo the curse they had unwittingly unleashed, their resolve tested as they fought against forces beyond their wildest nightmares. Emma, with her bravery and quick thinking, led the charge, while Jake used his strength to fend off the creatures. Mia, with her knowledge of old legends, guided them through the mansion's traps, and Noah's quick reflexes saved them more than once. In the end, they managed to return the Black Book to its chamber, and the whispers ceased. The creatures vanished, and the village began to recover. The teens, exhausted but victorious, left the mansion knowing they had narrowly escaped a dark fate.
Hey there, fabulous friends. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I loved creating it for you. Guess what? Thanks to your amazing support, I've hit 100 subscribers, our family is growing, and it's all because of wonderful people like you. I'm so grateful and love every single one of you. And hey, don't forget to drop a comment below. Do you enjoy scary stories more? Or are true crime tales your favorite? Can't wait to hear from you.